Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is August 1st, Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans. This is the level 1 recording for lesson 5. And lesson 5 in the material is called Mastering the Mind. So this lesson is all about what is going on in the disturbance that is at the level of the solar plexus. So that's below the heart. It's yellow. This is green. It's below the heart, but it's also above your tummy. It's above your intestines, above orange. And that there's a massive disturbance is the only word I can say, destabilization of the chakra system that happens at that level, and that is a huge part of the work that we are here doing in terms of flying rainbow lasagna-ing, the verb, to transcend these distortions at that level. So let me first just start off by showing you a few pictures, and this will also be preparation. Remember when I was telling you we're going to have a break in the drawing assignments. Hello, I see lovely people sitting down and showing up. Good to see you, dear. Yeah, we're going to have a few weeks of a break in the drawing assignments because what I want to do is a little bit of backstory of what exactly these chakras or energy centers are doing in their interactions before we get to the actual math of how they fit together. So before we learn, like, how these are nested proportionally, I want to talk on the anthropomorphic level a little bit about what they are and what they're doing and the behavior of energy as it flows through these centers. So that's not a part of what I have recorded for level 1. Like, the truth is, this is way more advanced than what I was able to express when I recorded those lessons almost 7 years ago. So this is like augmentation from what I've got in the recordings of level 1. So let me start off, just show you some wonderful images. Go to the screen share. This goes down. Okay, so first of all, I've shown you this image many times, and let me also make sure that my face is visible to everyone. This image is accurate in some ways, but not accurate in other ways, because all that I've done, I'm getting the annotation here, all that I've done is stretched out or deconstructed and made equal intervals. You see what I'm making these like black slash marks? Imagine that these are, breaks or measures or bars or something like that. I made them equal intervals. You can see everything is stacked on top of each other in a very, I keep using the word equal, but in a very equal way. And this is a simplification. So in some ways, this drawing is very accurate because it shows the proportions of all of the energy centers or chakras. It shows their colors, and it shows that each energy center is subdivided into 7 smaller layers. So this is what fractal means. Fractal means the larger structure is then subdivided into smaller structures that contain the same shape as the larger structure. So this large red chakra is divided up in half and becomes the orange chakra, which is then subdivided into 7 sections. And yellow is also subdivided into 7 sections. That is all highly accurate. But the way that this is stacked up is not completely accurate. So this is the challenge. As I'm making artwork throughout, my trajectory, my life here as Aurora, I've been wanting to make everything as accurate as I possibly can. Like, I made this glass piece back in 2004, 2005. So I know this information, something that I've embodied for a long time. It's the question of how can I accurately portray it? So I'm looking at all these different ways, animation or a glass piece or a painting or whatever that I can, always going for how accurately I can show these things. So more recently, here I'll show you 2 of these. This is just the line drawing, and it's sometimes easier to understand this. And also I want everyone to understand, you don't have to do this all in a jump in one day. This is kind of like I'm guiding you over the several weeks to understand what this is, because I know that Gala was trying to go directly into understanding this drawing. My hat is off to you. Good. I enjoy your enthusiasm. However, I don't want anyone to feel like, oh my God, like I'm dumping this all on you. Don't worry. I will dissect it or break it up into manageable bite-sized pieces so that you can get this. So this is just the drawing, and sometimes it's easier to see and perceive what's going on without color, but I do want to show you what's going on with color. That's this one over here. And here, let's make it a little smaller. There you go. So here's the whole piece. And there's lots of interesting gobbledygook around the edges, right? But then what I was showing in on is this, mostly the figure. And that's mostly what is germane to our topic today. So that's the same drawing, but it's just sometimes a little bit harder to see what's going on because all of a sudden you're like, some things are one color, some things are another color. What do I mean by that? Like this, because there's, in the challenge of being an artist and portraying these overlapping energy fields, I get to make choices. So like over here where I'm pointing with this arrow, there's one part that's yellow, but it's going through a part that's green. And so you're looking at it in your eyes like, well, is it yellow? Is it green? What am I looking at? And let's look for another area that's kind of like that, where we have, looking for something where it's easy for you to kind of see, right over here, where it's like, there's a green that's also overlapping with a yellow, and it's kind of like you're looking at it and kind of your system of interpretation, one system of interpretation is looking at it and trying to figure out what's in front of what is behind what, how does all this fit together. So sometimes it can be just a little bit more challenging if I show you everything with the color in order to be able to just understand the form. You go back to this one, and then I'll be able to talk I think more easily. Okay, so this is really accurate, and you can see that everything is not stacked up just in a very literal, like building blocks type of way, that you got to look at these areas here that I'm going to circle. Those little spots right down there are really important, where they fit together. So, and then you can hopefully follow them. Like if you follow the edge of that vortex to where it goes over to here, that's actually a yellow vortex. Here we got it right here. That's the solar plexus, right below the chest and right above the belly. So, okay, basic chakra. So what, blah, blah, blah. I'm showing this to you. I'm giving you a taste of what this is. Let me get into basic chakra anatomy. I've spoken about how these are complementary energy fields. You know, you have one that is horizontal and one that is vertical, and that makes a gyrostabilizing effect. So this is the combination of two chakras kind of whirling and swirling amidst themselves with each other. It's like a full energy center. Okay, in these arrangements, there are two places on the body where the chakras are arranged in a very interesting way. So one is right down here, that would be the base of the spine, and one is right up here. In this drawing, it might look slightly low on the face, but it's supposed to be like the direct center of the head, where your the top of your spine meets your skull. So those are very special places of intersection, where in this case down here, it's the red and orange chakra. So let me go to proper colors for this. We've got red that's going through like this, but then we've also got overlapping there orange. I don't know if you can see that as a different color, but we've also got orange that's going through in that same exact spot. And in the upper part of the anatomy, the interplay is between violet. So I'm going to make just this little simple violet cross like this. And then there is blue. Make it dark. It's supposed to be dark blue, like an indigo blue. So those two, imagine they're overlapping perfectly. My pen didn't make them overlap perfectly. Those two areas of anatomy overlap, but the rest of them do not overlap. So let's go through this now. Here's the light blue. This is at the level of the throat. And here's green. Choose a green you can see on the screen. Here's green and yellow. Okay, so if I'm pointing these out, red, orange, those two are nested together up here. Indigo, violet, those two are nested together up here. But these three, 1, 2, 3, those guys are not nested with another guy. Those are not partnered up in any kind of way. Those guys are different. And so what I'm trying to understand, how can I characterize this information to you? I'm just giving you abstract information. This is just the way that things are shaped. It's like saying, you have this orb on this side of your face, an orb on this side of your face, and nose holes here and here. Like, I'm just describing what these things are shaped like. On your body, the chakras or energy centers that are here, I say that they are arranged on the front of you almost like shirt buttons, kind of in like vertical dinner plates or something like that. The ones that are at the top and at the bottom, they are oriented. They have both orientations in them. So I'll highlight it for you so they can see better. I'm rewinding, I'm highlighting. Let's get a better color here. Like what color can you easily see? Like I'll just use red because you can easily see it. But these are not actually red. Here's the top of one, here's the bottom of one, here's where they fit in together, right? So that's your violet one actually. And then here is your indigo one. And that one fits in there like that. I just drew half of them. I didn't draw all of them. If I drew all of them, I would also draw in the smaller violet one, the bigger one, the bigger one. I hope that my words are making this make sense, and I'm sorry that I'm painting something red that's actually violet and blue so that you can hopefully see this better. These two energy centers have an interplay. They have an interreaction is what I'm trying to say. This is the whole point. This is what I'm backstory for the homework that's coming up. Every place where you have these little coming togethers means that there's an interplay between the chakras. Oh my goodness. Like get it together, Aurora. Let me get to the meat and potatoes. Okay, let's talk about energy impulses. Energy impulses come both from the top down and the bottom up. The top down and the bottom up. Top down means from higher dimensional, less dense realms into levels of density. And from the bottom up means from denser realms into less dense realms. Let's talk about the actual energy pathways that happen. So an impulse comes into the top of your head, into this whirling violet chakra right up there. And what happens to it? Well, first it whirls around your violet chakra and it comes over to here. Then it goes into the indigo chakra and it goes on an energy path like this. And then it interacts. Do you see where these guys, let's find a different color, Okay, that one has a crossing point right here. It interacts with another one that's going along like this. So that energy impulse that came in and it's rolled on down to here is also, let me rewind. I know this is kind of like when they do the sports play-by-play, the whole screen gets all covered up. You're gonna see this get all totally covered up. So now we're now squinting. We are interacting with this one over here, that kind of like upside down smile, that now that one is being interacted with going down in this direction. And then you can see, you where my pencil just went, right over here, there's a crossing point that connects with this one over here. So then what are we doing? Then we're swirling on in like this. Oh my goodness, look at how complex this gets. And then from there, there's also an edge that's connected over here where we are swirling on in like this, okay? And then from there, this connection, that upside down smile, look at how that connects to this over here. And that becomes a part of this larger chakra over here. That, guys, this is just a super complex energetic pathway. And that one also has this crossing point over here, which means that this energy can swirl upwards in this way. But eventually, look at where we just made. We made it to this crossing point over here, right? That is this giant physical chakra. I know this looks like now, like whatever, this football men have drawn all over the screen. You don't know what's going on. But we've just reached the physical chakra, but we're now swirling inward toward the physical chakra. So that's the actual pathway that impulses take from the higher dimensional realm through your violet chakra to your physical chakra through this, this entire long journey to be expressed in the physicality. But what I would do as a simplification is erase all this stuff and just say that the impulse comes in through here and wends its way down through these various interlocking gears that we consider like the transmission of a car that gets increasingly larger and larger until it finds itself in the largest gear of expression, which is physicality. And then in the same way, I said all of these pathways, when I'm teaching you about this shape, it's all a two-way highway. So if we have one pathway that is going away from the source or away from the convergence point, that same pathway also has a line of energy that is going to the convergence point. So first of all, that pathway that I just drew, let's choose a slightly different color. Of course, everything can go backwards on that pathway, but this is how I think of it like this. Let's say we get an impulse that comes, that now arises from the physical. Red is physical. And that physical impulse then wends its way from the general to the specific. And this is a focusing. You can think of this whole entire apparatus as a focuser, like a lens. And a lens focuses light, and this apparatus focuses consciousness. And what I just drew was that whole long wending pathway going from the general to the specific until you have an impulse that is purely abstract information that can then be transmitted to this higher dimensional, less dense realm. So again, to say this in a different way, all of our experiences in the physicality, let me go to my face and drink water. All of these experiences in the physicality, these are like analog experiences. Analog, meaning, you know, like a needle on a record, it's actual little bumps, the actual little bumps of music. It's an actual little vibration that's happening. So we are embodied in a physical body. We have actual bodies. We're having an analog experience. And we have physical stimulation. If it's whatever, drinking of food, or I feel something touching me, or I'm hearing something. These are experiences that affect our consciousness in the physicality. And then those analog, bumpy things that are happening in our neurology have to be somehow translated into a non-neurological signal. That is the thought signal that can then be broadcast back to the original guy who's been talking to us the whole time, or gal, the great conductor, the great composer, the convergence point, the zeroth dimension that started all of this, the place that we came from, the place that we're going to. This is us. This is you. This is me. This is the I am God moment. But it's just that we're on that journey of recognizing. So that journey has to do with, first of all, what is love? Love is a tone. Everyone in this class, sing it. Sing it with me. What is love? Love is a tone. No, you want to sing that 80s song. What is love? No, don't sing that song. What is love? Love is a tone. A tone that we make when we fly through time. Yeah, love is a tone that we make when we fly through time. It's an equal giving and receiving. It's literally, it's like a vibration that we make, wah, 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 when we're doing the right thing. So that vibration that we make is also made by an equal receiving of information from the higher dimensional, less dense realms, and sending back of physical analog experience. And in order to do that, we have to be constantly translating what we are doing, because what we are experiencing in our physicality is not in the same language or structure that communication takes place with in the non-physical world. So we have to translate those signals. That is what the chakra system does. Just like when you have the very high energy electricity that comes from the power station, that's like the sun. And level 2 of this class today is going to be all about the sun and solar consciousness and what we're ingesting all the time, what we're in rapport with, where it comes from, what it is. Yeah. Let me drink a little bit of water here. Equal giving and receiving. What we're supposed to be doing is receiving all sorts of ideas and energy and vital life force and nourishment from the higher dimensional, less dense realms. And that, of course, nourishes and animates our bodies, but it also creates the edifice of reality around us that we find ourselves in that give us these stimulations. So there's a larger superstructure that is emanated by these non-physical, stars and the stellar consciousness that we reside within, and we receive stimulation here in this world, and then we send those signals back. And that's love. That's love too. It's equal giving and receiving. The sun and the stars sends out this abstraction, and it's a world of possibilities and probabilities. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about the edifice that we're living in. That picture that I showed you, there's a human figure, and then there's all that gobbledygook around it. That's the field of possibilities and probabilities that is emanated by the sun and the stars, this abstract, higher dimensional level of consciousness that emanates us, that we are a part of. We're not separate from it. And then we reside within that abstraction, but not in an abstract state, in an embodied physicality state. And that's cool. Don't be like, I hate my physicality, I want to get out of here. Be like, being in physicality is cool. It is not inherently suffering. It is not, the definition of being in physicality is not having suffering. That is the experience that we're having because of the hack to the system, what's been going on. So when I drew my little picture for you with the football men and their, whatever, scratches all over the screen, I drew a perfect world for you. I keep on, like, you got to understand, like, all of my mistakes are made from this direction, that I come from a perfect world and that I draw these things that are perfect, divine like the way it's supposed to be, and I look at relationships as like particle A is supposed to interact with particle B, and this is just the way it's supposed to be. Like, I don't understand that things don't always go perfectly on the anthropomorphic level. That's been all of my mistakes have been made in that way. Like, I just understand that these things are perfect. It's just supposed to fit together. Like that old expression, many a slip twixt a cup and a sip. That is what happens in the physical realm, because you have this perfect abstract musical score, but it's not always played in this perfect way. So please understand, like when I draw this drawing, paint this painting on here, I'm showing you the ideal world. Kind of like if you look at the ancient Grecian marbles, the marble statues, and everybody has perfect physique and their faces are perfect. It's like, not everybody in ancient Greece had a perfect physique. Like, they are idealizing the body. They're showing the perfect version. So when I show you these forms, and when I show you this form on the image on the screen, I'm showing you the idealized form. And hopefully it is healing for you to look at and receive that in the same way that it can be healing to look at a Grecian marble and say like, wow, look at the abs on that guy. He's really chiseled. Like, I should do some sit-ups or something. So yeah, this is all the perfection here. This, what I'm showing you, this is everything in the most perfect way that it possibly can be. But what has happened due to the genetic squashing is that there is a huge disturbance. I hope you can see this color yellow on your screen here at the level of yellow. And this is so we have impulses going in both directions, right? Like if we have an impulse that's coming down this direction, it has to go through yellow. And likewise, if we have an impulse that is coming from this direction, it has to go through yellow. So the whole communication between ourselves as embodiments and the divine, or the thing that emanated us, or that level of abstraction, that whole level of communication has been diminished. I want to use like slang. I just want to say like hinky jinky. It's gone all caca cuckoo. It's been blocked out in many, many ways. So the way that I could show it, like this drawing has everything perfectly at 90-degree angles. But what has happened is that the yellow chakra goes to an angle like this, or it might go to an angle like this, or it might wibble wobble all around, but it does not stay in its perfect level of alignment. So I don't know if Miniman is online here today. He had a lot of questions last week about meditation, and maybe he'll catch this in the replay. But this is to answer a lot of Miniman's questions, because he wants to know, what is mind? Because mind sucks. Let's just face it, everybody. Like, mind sucks, okay? Like, do you know what I like to do? I like to do paintings and artwork and music and abstraction, because that is how I get out of my mind. And I really am trying to get across to everyone this idea that this mind, the human operating system, OS human, and this language that I'm using to talk to you right now, this is not from humanity. This is not something that naturally arose or evolved in some way. Like, that's what I think a lie that many humans believe or just expect as that's just the way it makes sense. No, this is not something that just naturally evolved, or that was like a survival mechanism. I consider the mind to be anti-survival. Let me just drink. What do I mean by that? Okay, so let's say you are a primitive hunter-gatherer, Australopithecus, like something that doesn't even have a pre-verbal pre-human, right? Not even a Homo sapiens. And you're walking around and you're just like, gotta find things to eat and not get eaten by other things. But if there is this constant mental chatter that is distraction from your daily tasks of finding food and water and being safe and taking care of your family and tribe, then it's just a distraction. That's the whole point, that humanity became incredibly vulnerable with the capacity to understand language and to have verbalized thoughts, because those verbalized thoughts take you away from the moment right now. If you are in the natural world and you have to survive, you have to be focused on the natural world. You have to think about the process what your senses are telling you about your environment to tell whether you are safe or not. But that is not the world of most of the people that I'm speaking to on this YouTube video. Because if you have YouTube and you have the internet, you're probably not an indigenous person living very close to the earth. You're probably not living in a rainforest or something like that. You probably live like me in a house with air conditioning. And it's not necessary for me to constantly focus on all of my senses to be like, hey, like, is there a snake behind me? Is there a water buffalo? Like, is there something? We are domesticated humans, or we are living, instead of saying we are, let's say, we're living like domesticated humans. And, you know, my little dog, she's like under the couch or whatever, keeping cool. But she's not that far from a wolf. I joke, she's an 8-pound wolf. the truth is, like, it doesn't take very much for them to totally drop their thin veneer of politeness and civilization and go back to acting like a wolf. Like, seriously, if you just put her with a couple of her little dog friends and like start giving them, doling out the goodies, like, they turn into rabid wolves, I'm telling you. So what I'm trying to say with that amusing anecdote about dogs is that with humans, the domestication, it is a thin layer that exists on top of us, that is maintained through a harsh series of constraints, just like dogs are constrained too, behaviorally and through food and through limited movement and harnesses and leashes. Humans are constrained through thought structures and also through availability of resources, which basically boils down to money. But if y'all had enough money, like literally you'd throw off the constraints and you'd be like, I'm not wearing a bra. Are you kidding me? Like, I'm going to go play in the garden or whatever. Like, I'm going to go fishing. This is what retirement is, quote unquote retirement, but nobody really retires anymore. But it's what retirement is supposed to be, when you're finally free and you can just go around and do what you want to do. What would you do? Like, you'd sleep late, you'd spend time visiting with friends, you'd go hang out at the beach, you'd like have fun. You do what you do on vacation. That's it. You would release the thin veneer of what it is to be a civilized human, where like you have to wake up at a particular time, you have to follow a particular schedule. That's all the training of the domesticated human. Blah, 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 all this in order to say, so why do humans take on this level of domestication? Language is a huge part of the domestication process. When blah, blah, blah. When we come here, mostly as little tiny infants, and I came here not as an infant because I'm a walk-in, I came into an adult human body, but my journey is analogous to the journey of an infant, a little tiny human that comes here with an unformed pre-verbal state. And for me, there was a lot of brain damage. I had a lot of aphasia. I had to rewire. I had to do neuroplasticity. I had to learn language, not as if from the first time, but I had to learn a lot of new things, like to express myself here. Little children are the same way. And it's a survival need. You cannot simply come here and be nonverbal and hope to get what you want. This is what I learned from, as I was going through that transformative experience. Like, if you don't speak up, people project their agenda upon you, that it is very difficult to be self-directed and nonverbal in this world, because if you don't say something, other people will presume everything that they want to presume. So I can now give a little recommendation to a good movie called Being There. This is with Peter Sellers. It's an old movie, like from like the 1970s or so. He plays like a simple man that might have an intellectual disability and he's not able to speak. And he's the gardener, and he's able to speak, but only very simple sentences. He has a limited ability. And all of these people around him, they turn him into some kind of like wise guru. And he's always just like talking about the garden. He's just like saying simple things. So it was all about projection, that they projected all these things on him. Carla's saying that she's retired, and that's exactly what she did. She has sloughed off the thin layer of domestication and does not feel the need to, toe the line for a bag of kibble. That's usually what most people do. They'll be like, I need food. I'll work. I'll do what you need me to do. But then if they ain't no food, like, I ain't working. My dog is that way too. I have like a little bag that I put the TREATS into, because she's listening. And we have a certain amount of ammunition for the day, and we go out and we do things in which she does a good job. She gets a little reward. And when I'm out of ammo, like, her behavior goes down, because she's like, oh, like the pockets are empty, I'm gonna do whatever. So she's like barks and lunges and does whatever, because she's like, I ain't gonna get paid. So that's it. So we have a very, very clear relationship. Like, you work hard, you get paid. If there's no more payment, like, I ain't working hard. I think that's very fair. But that's domestication. I make no bones about it. Like, my dog is a domesticated animal, and I've gone through an extensive training program with her, and that has definitely helped me to understand. So where does mind originate from? Again, in reference to the lovely participant named Miniman. Mind does not originate from humanity. It is not something that naturally evolved as a pro-survival tool from a bunch of simple Australopithecus hunter-gatherers who then, ate enough animal fat to be able to expand their fatty idea catcher and grow linguistic capabilities. No, the possibility to be linguistic is the direct result of a genetic modification that was made by a group of genetic engineers that are non-earthly, that are not human. They do not have your best interests at heart. And so Earth's human genetic code has been transformed many times. There was the initial genetic squashing that happened during the initial invasion, but there were many subsequent distortions that happen. So imagine the guitar strings first got out of tune, hinky jinky, and maybe even some of the guitar strings, they popped them off. But then other people came along later and they might have even like changed the bridge or changed the action or like changed the entire calibration. Like a lot of people came along and threw in their 2 cents. And so language is another part of that. Yeah, it's not something that naturally arose. And also when I say that it is not pro-survival, language is hugely distractive. It is hugely distractive from your own natural mind. Now we make a distinction in this class between your true mind, which is nonverbal, and your implanted mind, the human operating system, OS human, which is at that level of yellow and which is not your true mind. This is big. We come here in our true mind. When you're a little tiny infant and the skull plates have not yet fused, have a little fontanelle up there that is analogous to the energy that is unbroken between you and higher dimensional, less dense realms. And there's not a sense of individuation at that level of development. There's nothing wrong with individuation, but there's a problem with discontinuity of communication. So you can be individuated and say, I am myself, I am this person here, even while you are still connected. That's like being part of the band. You're like, hey, this is my beat, this is my beat, I'm me playing my beat, and I'm connected to the band. It's not like, oh, you can't hear any of the other musicians, you can hear them. That's what it's supposed to be like. But instead, what has happened is we come here and over the course of like the first year or so of life, we individuate. This gets closed down and diminished. Our connection to the rest of the band gets diminished. And then each human develops their own inner sense of being an individual, but without being able to hear the other musicians. That's not what's supposed to happen. We're supposed to maintain our divine connection. That's where things go awry. And why does it go awry? Because little baby humans got to survive. If you sit there with poop in your diaper and you don't say anything about it, like you're just going to be uncomfortable and get a diaper rash. You learn to speak for what you want. You learn to ask for what you want. You learn to say when you're hungry. You learn to say, no, I don't want that. No, I don't want broccoli. Yes, I do want, candy. Like that. Little babies, they learn very easy to express their preferences. And again, if you don't express your preferences, you're going to get a lot of broccoli shoved into your mouth. Not going to get whatever yummy pears or sweet potatoes, good stuff. So people are highly motivated to take on the levels of domestication here in order to survive. But then the worst thing that we do to children is indoctrinate them with language. We consider it a good thing. And I've done a lot of early childcare. I was a professional nanny, like a live-in nanny and a professional babysitter for years back in Woodstock. If you can believe that, some of my kids are probably college age at this point, which just, I can't even believe that. But yes, they're probably going off to college. But I remember, yes, it's considered very, very good, teaching young people to understand language, teaching them new words, teaching them new sentence structures. And language should not be inherently limiting, but it ends up being inherently limiting because there's no off button. So that is the big problem. If we give someone a tool like the capacity to speak in the mind or speak with the voice, we must also give them the capacity to turn off the speaking. So what is torturous is that we indoctrinate little people with this inner voice that is like a narrator of one's true thoughts. And we don't give them the big red button that you can press that says, shut up, the off button. That's what we're supposed to have. So we each have to develop that ourselves. And so this also speaks to some of the other questions that Miniman asked in the chat a couple of weeks ago about mind, about schools of meditation, about what the heck do we do with this. So to be very clear, the mind that was implanted in humanity is inherently flawed, intentionally flawed, and intentionally foisted upon you. And not only is it just to be a distraction, but it's got back doors. So while you are distracted by the verbalized narrator of your mind, thinking these thoughts or saying these things to you, it is possible for these otherworldly supernatural residues that are in the interstices to affect your behavior because you are so freaking distracted. It's like having a GPS that tells you like, turn over here, go over here, do this thing now, do this thing now. Like you get so distracted by that it can be difficult to hear your true mind. And while you are in this conflicted state and trying to direct yourself through your daily existence, it's very, very easy for these otherworldly beings to kind of scoop on in and affect you through your blind spots, through your vulnerabilities or chinks in your armor or places where you're not able to focus your attention because your attention is busy being from attenuos. Your attention is being diverted on the hijacked and erroneous instructions that are coming from the mind. One big takeaway from this presentation today is that a flawed mind cannot heal the flaws in the mind system. This is not a job for your intellect. The fixing, the rectification that we're experiencing right now is not a job for your mind. It's not a job for your intellect. So your mind is going to ask all these questions. We could have a whole session where they'll have lots and lots of chat and lots and lots of questions from the mind. This is not fixed. Your body, you don't get the healing. Your mind, body, and energy and consciousness don't get the healing from your mind. Even though I'm here appealing to your intellect, flapping with my moving mouth parts, but I'm really trying to go beyond the intellect and beyond words. And that's what I do with music, imagery. That's why I'm always, bringing this in, doing diagrams, showing you images, all these things. I mean, really, ideally, you could be in my studio or in the exhibition of my artwork and just see all these things and just have it soak into every pore of your body while you're listening to perfectly tuned music, and you will understand these things beyond the intellect. I used this analogy again, previously I'll use it again. In order to navigate these higher dimensional realms, these are realms of perception, not realms of intellect. So it doesn't matter. You don't think your way through the time field. You don't think your way through an experience. You don't think your way through a project. And people look at me and my work and they think that I'm highly intellectual. The truth is I'm not. I'm very experiential. I'm not using my mind in order to create these paintings. I'm not using my mind in order to apprehend the world. I'm really using my higher sense, because I'm defining mind as this yellow level, and I'm using my higher senses, the level of blue and violet. Let's show it on the screen here. The levels of blue and violet up here where I'm waggling my cursor, that's where your true mind is. Not this level where I'm waggling my cursor down here at the level of the solar plexus. So the dastardly deed of the implantation of this verbalized mind is that it takes us away from our true mind. And what we're trying to do, I got a drink of water here. What we are trying desperately to do is to return to our true mind, because that is where we get our creativity from. So during my day, I try to structure and engineer my day so that I'm spending the most amount of time that I can in that nonverbal state doing art and music and experiencing that level of thought, because that's where I get my creativity from. That's where I literally get my vitality of my body. When I do Flying Rainbow Lasagna, I'm similarly nonverbal. I don't sit there. That's why it was so weird when I did the ECT presentation. I had the mic and I was narrating. I'm like, now I'm reaching back in time. Now I'm twisting time together. Like, I usually don't think it's like when you do it like a cooking show. Like, that's the weirdest thing in the world, where they're like, now I'm whipping the potatoes. Like, now I'm going to throw some butter in there. Like, you don't usually do that when you're at home. Like, you just make the food and then you eat the food. That is what lasagna is like for me. Usually I just make the lasagna. I do not usually narrate it and say, oh, time to sprinkle that cheese, time to do that thing. No, it's usually something very natural that just unfolds. So again, when I do the lasagna dance, that is not an expression of my human intellect at all. I don't calculate and say, wow, 1 + 1, carry the 2, this cosine, and then we're going to go over in this direction. It's not that approach at all. So again, it is an experienced, embodied approach to being able to do all these things. That's your true mind. So if you have never encountered your true mind, I encourage you to encounter it. In some way, you got to figure out how to press pause or press the big red shut up button on your mind. And so for me, like, I'm a very active person, and mostly I don't feel comfortable just sitting in meditation, just kind of like sitting with my legs crossed. Some people do. They're really peaceful. Karine is a lovely participant in this class, and she enjoys sitting peacefully in meditation, and she does her Flying Rainbow Lasagna in that way. I know some other people like Gala in this class, and she's a bit more active. She likes to go on the elliptical trainers or things at the gym, because those are kind of good. Like, you just kind of go in a rhythm and you kind of balance on the machine, or stationary bikes or something like that. And you can kind of let go of your feelings of having to direct your limbs, and you can kind of be free in that way. So I really like to do Flying Rainbow Lasagna, sitting in my chair. I do a lot of meditation that is active meditation, things like drawing these circles, or practicing music and all these things. When I say active meditation, these are the things that work for me, because just sitting quietly and observing my mind, that is just like, I'm like, I gotta get stuff done. So yeah, I'd way rather get stuff done. So Big takeaways. Human mind is not done for the convenience or use of humanity. Human mind takes you away from your true mind, which is your higher senses, your higher faculties. Navigating the time field and what we are experiencing right now is not a job for the human intellect, and this transcendent experience of metamorphosizing or metamorphosing, transforming into a different state, again, is not a job for your mind. This is not like, oh, I'm going to read a book and then I will know all about how to do it. No, it is an experience to have, like tasting something or making music or experiencing music or making love. What do you do? What am I going to do with this crappy mind that we got? The answer is press pause on the mind as much as you possibly can. And so there's many different schools of meditation. That's why I don't teach meditation. There's a million different people and a million different ways to do it. You can do things like mantra, which is essentially a repetitive, repeating the same phrase over and over until it kind of loses meaning, just becomes an abstraction. That's like giving an elephant's trunk like a little something to grab onto. Like, you just hold on to this for a little while. Just say this mantra over and over. Or saying the rosary, any kind of repetitive thing like that. You can kind of, it's just like saying, like, go do that in the corner for a little while so that I have 5 minutes of peace. But whatever you can do in order to achieve inner silence, that's what it is, inner silence. And the more that you achieve inner silence, the more that you'll find it's easy to do so. You build it like a muscle, and also it gives you perspective. You get a little bit of distance between the talking mind and yourself, the perceiver, yourself, the liver, the person who's actually the experiencer who's actually here and being alive. And you start to see, like, that's a bunch of crap. Like, that ain't even me. This is now what you're going to start to see. The wibbly wobbliness of that particular chakra in your body. It's a music that is not actually you. It's like this. That's not real music. It's not you at all. So that's the thing. People identify with the talking mind. They say, that's me. I'm talking. You ain't talking. That ain't you. It's implanted in you. So I don't want to tell everybody this and I'd be like, something's in my mind. Tear it out, tear it out. That's why I'm really safe about the way that I say all these things. Mini-man, don't tear out your hair. Don't. But yeah, you got something inside. All of us got something inside that ain't supposed to be inside. That's the big challenge. And so here are some of the basic cosmic laws that we can use in order to enzymatically break this down. Like, how do we remove the stain? What do we do? Anything that goes on inside of me is going on inside of Aurora Land. This is what I've said before. So yeah, you have boundaries. You have energetic boundaries and you have physical boundaries. So your physical boundaries are your epidermis. Everything that is inside of this skin barrier is quote unquote Aurora, right? And same thing with my energy field. Everything that is inside of my energy field, I define quote unquote as me. So if some implant of the mind comes inside of my energy field, comes inside of my brain, comes inside of my chakra system, affects my DNA, hey, you just entered Aurora Land. And I am the sheriff. I'm in charge. I'm the president. I'm the queen. I'm the everything. I'm the brute squad. I make everything happen. And if I don't like you, first of all, you don't get to be there. But if I don't like you, I get to do stuff. So it all depends. If probes are sent into you, you can cut off those probes and you can keep them. Or you can take those probes and you can send it back. That's more in terms of energetic attack. But let's say this, someone implants something in your mind that you ain't enjoying. You have to just be like, I'm just going to sit in Zen meditation, la, 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 nothing's happening, everything's fine. No, you don't have to do that. You don't have to sit around with squatters in your house or muddy footprints all over the floor or whatever you don't enjoy. It's your house. You actually can kick them out. You could say, get the F out. You ain't supposed to be here. And so everybody, I'm sure, wants to be like, okay, what is the procedure for doing this? Different schools of meditation, different ways of doing it. So I will tell you that I have practiced this throughout my whole entire 18 years of being here in this body, and that the more that I did it, the more I got greater momentum. It's just like getting a faster physical metabolism. Like maybe in the beginning you're 500 pounds, but the more exercise you do and the more muscles that you build, the faster your metabolism gets. So that what it feels like to me now is like something gets burned off instantaneously. Whereas in the past, a thought structure or something that came inside of me would have taken time to understand, time to process, time to return to balance. Like if my wheels are spinning like this and something destabilizes me, I start to go like this. It used to take me a long time before I would kind of get back to center. Now, because my wheels are spinning really, really fast, that's what I mean by strong muscles. I have a lot of inner momentum. Things come along, they try to destabilize me. It's like, a tiny amount of destabilization, and then I'm back to center. And that's what this is like. And Merkaba helps a lot too. So basically you have to practice constant vigilance, which is a tall order. I know I'm looking at my time. This is very challenging. But this is also the battle. The battle is not done with any kind of external weaponry, and I'm always really careful about the words that I use because I don't want YouTube to think that I'm some kind of a crazy person, and I'm a non-violent person. Meditation is the way that you fight this battle, this spiritual battle. It is by claiming your own mind and claiming access to your own DNA, because that constant talking, constant verbalization also restricts your access to your DNA, which is part of your magical manifestation abilities. So yeah, words are hugely harmful. I want to say words are hugely harmful. Words can be utilized as phonetic symbol structures that can contain something powerful in abstraction, but you can also just sing abstractly. If you want to just make something happen in the world, you don't have to sing it and say blah blah under the full moon with an eye of newt, like blah blah. Say I intone thee and thou, magical incantation will happen. You don't have to do that. You can simply la la la, sing it into being, and it happens. So wait, let me go through some of these questions. Matthew's saying, yeah, it's so true about the voice in the mind. After an NDE type experience, his word mind had nothing to say. Very interesting. The liberation from this was nothing short of miraculous. That's really good to hear. Thoughts of loves and people with no story, no pre-thoughts, just energetic love. This means if I thought of someone, their energetic love came first before any other thoughts, memories, or opinions. And this was liberation and purity. It's a very beautiful expression, a very beautiful description of what you've experienced. And I would say that is along the lines of what real telepathy is. So I will also say in this presentation that this implanted mind is so harmful to us because it prevents humans from accessing their real birthright, their real higher senses faculty of being able to truly connect with others through telepathy on a bridge of love. And this is very, very truthful. Miss Plugin says, what about the dreams? Are they controlled by the mind? Excellent question. Some dreams are merely the detritus of the day, where you are going through kind of like digesting different things, fragments of what you experienced, whatever, inner insecurities. It's just house cleaning. Sometimes dreams are just house cleaning. Sometimes dreams are being affected by malevolent occupiers of the interstices. So sometimes they are not your own thoughts in exactly the same way that there can be mental parasites. Like once you start to meditate, you start to really take a catalog and analyze what is going on inside of your mind, I think that you will understand that most of what you're perceiving and using as mind is not originating from you. So for me, I'm sorry, I don't always bring it back around to you, but this is my experience, so I can share it with you. It's like say, like, here's how I grew my muscles. In getting rid of the parasites and getting faster momentum, parasites don't come in, or they come in and they're kicked out in 1 second. What I started to find was that what remains of my human mind now is mostly like a laundry list. Like it's like, oh, got to go to the post office. Oh, got to buy that can of beans. Got to do this, got to do that. And it can be very distracting. It can come up at always, the wrong time, but it's not the same as the malevolence of some of these other thought invaders. And we got to talk about synthetic telepathy. So we just talked about real telepathy, like I'm giving you these idealized, perfect anatomical drawings, but now let's also talk about synthetic telepathy. This is what people experience when they eat microchips for breakfast. Not microchips, but something like a neural lace, or black goo, or whatever, magical Ormus monoatomic gold, or a magical elixir, or DMT, or ayahuasca, or any of these artificial substances that augment your own natural telepathy. In kindness, I call them training wheels, but they're really like a microphone and an amp for people that have not learned how to cultivate their natural voice like an opera singer, and they need some augmentation. Or they haven't learned how to cultivate their natural vision to be able to see these things. Hey guys, I gotta tell you, I do all this stuff. I never take ayahuasca, I never take mushrooms, I never take any of those things. I can't, I have to protect my brain. So it's like, those things are like rocket fuel that artificially amplify or open up doors, usually before a participant is ready for that information. Like when you start to open up your inner eye, you get the information that you're supposed to get at the time you're supposed to get it. So all of that is kind of like asking for or requiring nutrients ahead of time. It's not desirable. It's not the way that it's supposed to happen. Blah, blah, blah. I'm just thinking, I can go in so many different ways. Synthetic telepathy. So wait. So I'm not only just talking about, because there are natural, well, there are people who just drink a brew from the Amazon. There are Western tourists who do it. There are people in the United States who do it. Everybody takes mushrooms at raves. There's all this. But then there's also actual military intelligence experimentation where there are members of, let's say, malevolent factions of our own government that are in league with profoundly malevolent extraterrestrials that are interested in this type of interdimensional portal molecule. If you take a molecule, then you can have a portal to another dimension. And I keep telling you guys, like, you don't need a molecule. Like, you get to be the portal. Like, I don't have to take a molecule. I sit in my lawn chair to do this. This is what I'm trying to tell you. So all of those things where you have to take a molecule or get into some kind of apparatus or some kind of magical helmet. I put on my magical helmet and then it augments my telepathy and everyone can hear me. Like, that's all for lame-ass losers, okay? You don't want any of that stuff. You don't want to have to do any of that stuff. And mostly that augmentation is like super weak. Like maybe you can reach someone like in the room next door. Like you're supposed to be able to be telepathic with people from like billions of light years away. If you can just like barely reach into the room next door, like that is super lame. And that's mostly what the level of these things are. So there's synthetic telepathy and natural telepathy. And I'm a natural telepath, but I hear the synthetic telepaths all the time and their music is crap. So I'm not a fan, and it is hugely disruptive when good natural telepaths are trying to connect together and make beautiful music, and the crap heads are amplified. So Miss Plugin and your question about dreams. Sometimes in exactly the same way that there's synthetic telepathy versus real love telepathy, there's real lucid dreaming, there's real love dreaming. That is when you go into a higher dimensional realm, you know, kind of with your consciousness, but you're still connected to your body. But then there's also malevolent flights of fancy, where some external being reaches into your mind and affects your perception in dreaming. And this happens quite a lot, and it happens for energy siphoning. So it can happen for sexual energy siphoning, for anxiety or fear-based. Anxiety and nightmares get siphoned off, and even the idea of like implanting false expectations. Like, oh, I had a dream that someone I loved had a bad disease, or oh, I had a dream that someone I loved, whatever, was going to get in a car accident. Like all of those things that end up not being truthful, but that it harvests energy and anxiety from you. There are negative influencers that can affect the mind through your dreams. So the bad news is, through the hacked operating system of the human mind, it is possible for your daytime consciousness to be hacked and your nighttime consciousness to be hacked. But I will tell you that real dreams, you can tell that they're real because they have a feeling that is very, very incontrovertible, and you remember them very strongly, and they don't fade over time. So you have to really have a good ability to taste. You taste something like, is that real? No, that's a bunch of bullshit. Is that real? Yeah, that's real. So you have to taste your own dreams and taste whether something is really real. Saunders, Eleanor, good to see you, says, a flawed mind cannot heal a flawed mind. Wow, exactly. Yeah, back to that Netflix show, the idea of the very brilliant computer scientist who wanted to make an artificial intelligence that would be like a psychologist, psychiatrist that could heal humans. But he himself was flawed. So he's a flawed human programmer who makes a machine that he thinks is going to be perfect and help to perfect humanity. Instead, the machine just embodied more. It was the amplification of more of his own flaws. He had mommy issues and the machine had mommy issues. So that's it. That's if you think that so let's say whatever, and this is really what it is about. That any flawed human that goes to another flawed human and says like, help me, heal me, fix me, like pick me up and make me into something, like that's not an appropriate relationship, because it is not for someone else to do. They don't have the nourishment to be able to do that for you. But also, I don't recommend that you look to an external sky god to say, something outside of me, help me, that's supernatural, it's not embodied, help me, heal me, fix me. I think that the answer is always that it is an internal, that you realize that you're divine, that you're the healer, that you heal yourself. But it doesn't mean you have to be alone on your journey. But it's about who you invest with authority to heal you, and who you invest with authority to understand and rectify. So yes, more and more on this journey, I keep refocusing and continuing to trust in myself as opposed to some perceived other. Okay, Christina says, words tend to make a situation worse for me the more I try to express myself verbally. I can relate, and I'm sure that there are other people in this class who can also probably relate. Like, you're in a hole, and then you keep talking, and you're digging yourself deeper into the hole. Like, oh, that's even getting worse. It's even getting worse. Yeah, so, something when I express myself, I'm not being manipulative of other humans at all. And I had to kind of learn that people use words to manipulate other people's behavior, to convince them, to twist their arm. to sell them on something. And I'm totally not a salesperson. So when I say something, I'm being just very literal. Like, what is this thing? Oh, this is like that ketchup. Oh, this is mustard. Oh, this is pickle. Like, I'm just telling you what it is. I'm not trying to influence your behavior. But I had to learn that a great deal of verbal expression for most people is a pushing and pulling, a way of manipulating, a way of trying to get someone to do something. So yeah, when I say, I express myself quite blithely, and then sometimes I recognize from someone else's reaction, like, oh, like, this is making them feel this way or making them do this way. That's usually not my intention. So that's been an eye opener. But I'm mostly here just in terms of self-expression. So yes, I know. And social isms and what is polite. It's a challenge. It's a real huge challenge. Ines says, do you think it has a reason why kids under 7 like the color lilac mostly, since they're more connected through the open fontanelle? Interesting. But a lot of adult people like the chakra blue color as well. Do you see a connection to this? I'm not sure. That's a good question. I don't know if the colors that kids prefer have to do with their, connectedness to divinity. But I'll tell you this. I think that the vaccine agenda is specifically targeting the state of mind of the pre-verbal, still connected, lovely infantile consciousness here. That it's not accidental. It's not just that the evil controllers of humanity up until this point want to basically inject mind control substances into humans. It's like, why do they have to do it at the moment of birth? Why do they have to do it at 2 months? Why don't they wait until 1 year of development? There's a real reason for this. And none of this is about medical science. All of your medical science and all of your food production has all been hijacked by the malevolent aliens that are here on this planet. It's all about reducing those babies and their connection to the divine. So, okay, I was a professional babysitter for a long time. When you hold a little baby, they are like little batteries. This is like it's not just a survival mechanism. It's not just that they're cute, they have dimples and big eyes so that their parents won't like strangle them or drown them because they're screaming so much. It's not just that they're cute. And they smell good too, and their pheromones are part of manipulating your behavior to want to take care of them. But babies make you feel great. When you hold them and you hug them and you rock them, they make you feel great because they're like tiny little external battery packs. You need a charge, hug a baby. Hug a baby. It feels wonderful to hug a baby because they're totally connected on that level of love and divinity, and they radiate it outwards. And that's part of their service of being here. Like when you come here and you're a little tiny infant, it's not like, oh, like you're helpless and everyone else is taking care of you and you're such a burden to humanity. No, it's like you're giving a huge amount of that perfect, pure love tone. Like they sing beautifully all the time. That's why it's so cool to hold a baby, because they sing beautifully all the time. So what is happening right now, there's a huge vaccine agenda to diminish that beautiful, pure tone that the babies are making and make it into a torture tone or no tone at all. But I'll also tell you that a lot of the babies that are being born right now, that they're badasses, that they're here intentionally at this time to be in that 1-year-old pre-verbal, state of pure love and divinity to help us as we're on this journey. So don't underestimate the little young people that are coming in right now. They're very advanced in a lot of ways, and they make their choices. And it's very sad whenever I see any soldier that's been, picked off on the battlefield. That's what happens with SIDS, vaccine injury, sudden death after vaccines, or when they, lose themselves and they, devolve and they cannot speak anymore. That's like losing a soldier on the battlefield. It's very sad. Angel says, I understand how to stop mind chatter while awake, but how can we stop interference during our dream time? Can we remain lucid all the way through? So I will tell you, I am not yet an expert at lucid dreaming due to some of the brain damage and neurological disruptions of this body. That's been a really hard thing for me to do, because when you're diving down, the areas where you dive through were disrupted for me. So going down and then coming back up, I used to have a lot of nocturnal seizures and disruptions. So that's been something that I'm still trying to learn about. You got to ask someone else about how to do lucid dreaming. But the answer is yes. Lucid dreaming is like a muscle. You can grow your muscle. You can get better at being able to do this. Also, there are protections you can place around yourself. So even though I'm not an expert at OBE or lucid dreaming at this point, I do Merkaba around everything. Merkaba around my bed, Merkaba around my bedroom, Merkaba around my house, Merkaba around my yard. And part of that is also about being able to have good restful sleep without anything intruding on my dreams. So the energetic field of protection, notice the Merkaba is very effective. And then you can also do physical protections, like I use shungite, the mineral, pieces of it in my room in order to make a perimeter around my bed. And I would encourage everyone to do that. And I would also encourage you, don't put your stupid cell phone on the nightstand next to your bed. Don't have your computer shit in your room, pardon my French. Turn off your router if you can, because a great deal of the synthetic telepathy is hijacking on the Wi-Fi networks. And you'll also sleep better and get more cellular renewal not being exposed to all the Wi-Fi crapola. Sharon says, I would love to block those messages while asleep. Often I wake up with silly memories from 20 years ago, which were never important. Sometimes it might just be detritus, but sometimes it might be something with a malevolent agenda saying, hey, like, I want to mess with you. I want to harvest some anxiety energy. Let's make you think of an old boyfriend or whatever. All of those dreams, the classic dreams, naked in public, didn't study for a test, forgetting something at a public speech, all of those things. It's all anxiety harvesting. It's not who you really are. It's not you. Oh, Miniman, good to see you, man. So Miniman says, so how are we supposed to use thoughts and language, writing, etc., in a useful and beneficial way for us? Or is that not possible? To my experience, it is not possible. I'm sorry to inform this to you. If you're a writer or a poet or even a song lyricist, I'm very sorry to tell you that words are hopelessly hacked. And it is very, very challenging to get across any amount of truthfulness through this hacked system. So that's why I've chosen more abstract types of music and visual expressions in order to try to share these ideas. Literally, like, we got to just toss words. When we go through our metamorphosis and transform, we will use words very, very little. It will not even be needed. Ines says, Aurora, how I understand you, your artistic work, when you sink in totally. This is creative meditation all day long. Exactly. So we have to find and execute our passionate creative work. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much for that. So I would say that is what we are supposed to do when we slough off the layers of domestication that say, go work in your cubicle and here is your bottle of kibble for the rest of the day. When we are able to be free and self-directed, it is up to each person to determine what is your creative work. So you know something, some people, like, they run a triathlon and that is how they get to those levels of inner meditation. And so for me, like, I have, physical limitations. I can't run 100 miles. So this is my version of running 100 miles. And, I like that I get a painting at the end of it. So for some people, the active meditation might be working in a garden, because it's its whole own little rhythm of how you do things, or whatever. For some people, it's making food, like puttering around the kitchen. You have to explore what are the things that you do, but usually it is a self-directed task that is without pressure. It's not like you're doing it for money. And a couple of times I've worked on commission and I had to finish something with a deadline, and that absolutely changed my mental state while I worked on my piece. So I don't really do stuff like that on a deadline. I do work in a way that is comfortable, where I maintain a comfortable mental state. So thank you for that, Ines. That was a lovely comment. Nicole says, thank you for these clear explanations. My mind was very clear until I recently had dental work. Oh, we'll talk about this. Ever since those shots, I got songs stuck in my head all the time. Pretty sure there was nano in those shots and to catch a signal I didn't have before. So our teeth, our mouth crystals are actually not meant to be used for smashing potatoes. These are tuners. They're tuners, like for radio. And this is a big part of our telepathy. So first of all, calcium is a big part of telepathy, the mineral. To be able to do the neurological stuff, to send and receive these signals, requires a lot of calcium. If you don't eat enough calcium and you do a lot of telepathy stuff, it breaks down the calcium from your teeth in order to compensate for this. This is what happens with methamphetamine addicts. So they take a drug that molecularly amps up their synthetic telepathy. They use up lots and lots of calcium. The body takes it out of their teeth. This is what happens. So I'm a natural telepath. But even when synthetic telepaths send me messages, some data rates might apply. That means that when you get a phone message, you're still paying for the data you're receiving, even though it's unwanted spam. It's crapola, and it can still use up calcium from your body. So I'm very big. I used to eat ground up eggshells until I found out, like, you can't eat a lot of ground up eggshells. It will give you a tummy ache. But now I take calcium supplements. But I used to just eat like ground up eggshells to get extra calcium. So take a bunch of extra calcium because it's a neurotransmitter. And so first of all, having enough calcium in your diet, also the other minerals, because I drink specifically well water that has minerals in it for that same thing. I have high mineral needs. Not everybody has these needs. Do what is right for your own body, please. But if you have orthodontia, that changes the tuning, the tuners of your body. If you have fillings, that changes the tuners of your body. And that's not just like something from Gilligan's Island where it's picking up, some radio signals on his fillings. Like, this is for real. When you get implants into your jaws, So teeth are like the visible expression of a whole nerve structure that goes throughout our whole face and that connects through our cranium to our brain. Your teeth are connected to your brain and they're part of telepathy. So when you are speaking telepathically, it involves your physical teeth. This is like what everybody in ancient Atlantis knew, but I have to explain it explicitly here. So yes, and root canals are also not encouraged because of the practices of dentistry that not only leaving behind materials that might still be festering, but also the other materials that it degrades the tooth integrity, so that it's no longer, so I understand, thank you for your reportage of your experience. You had dental work and it changed the clarity of your mind. Dental work is one of the ways that our minds are being put out of tune. That literally we put braces on little children's teeth and we rearrange their tuners in a way that is not conscious. It's done cosmetically so that you look better, but not so that your mind functions better. It's barbaric, actually, if you want to know the truth. It's like, whatever, it's horrible. Jules says, smoking cannabis seems to open folks up to synthetic telepathy. Malevolent parasites have stopped completely and now have clarity, meditative consciousness. So yes, cannabis and THC, like I drink raw cannabis and I'm a big proponent for cannabis as a, whatever tool for health. It can be a molecular portal like other augmentation. It amps up your mind, basically. It can turn up the amplification on whatever you are hearing, whatever you're sending and receiving. So, unfortunately, I get synthetic telepathy whether or not I'm ingesting cannabis. So I just have had to learn to be really, I have a really strong, I do a series of ways that I block it out and fight against it. And similarly, when I got to get on to level 2, but I'll just keep going with this. When synthetic telepathy comes to you, you can make this feedback loop that burns it out. And so I do a lot of that. You can fight back. Eleanor says, is there a hack from yellow into orange? Using orange to form obsessively yellow thought feeling structures? Yes. So you're asking a great question. We go to the picture. When one area is destabilized, it destabilizes all these other areas too. So if we destabilize yellow over here, make a better color. If we destabilize yellow over here, yellow connects here to orange. It destabilizes emotions. If you destabilize your intellect, it destabilizes your emotions. And then destabilized emotions destabilizes your physicality. Think about any time you've ever been angry or sad, what that does to your body. Like, yes. And there's also a destabilization in the other direction. Does destabilization at the level of thought destabilize your heart? Yes. It makes it more difficult to achieve the love tone when your stupid freaking mind is constantly talking and chattering. So, and then that destabilization or diminishment of that tone affects all of the higher chakras, that they can't be as active and focused and effective because there's destabilization down here. That's it. That's what's been going on. So the answer is each one of us has to, recalibrate the bicycle wheels of your body so that we are not experiencing these destabilizations. And meditation is a big part of that. Jules says, yeah, synthetic telepathy music is outrageous. Persistent garbage. Have figured out how to turn it off. Good. Very, very good. Margaret says, hi, Aurora. What deep sleeping and possibly being out of the body? Is the body and the body energy chakra system vulnerable to hacking by malevolent beings? Yes. The answer is the body is vulnerable to hacking from malevolent beings in both daytime consciousness and nighttime consciousness. This is very big. Like, people in their daytime consciousness can be affected and infected. People in their nighttime consciousness can similarly be affected by malevolent beings. We live in unprecedented times where some satanic being, technology using space race, can just zap your brain while you're asleep at night and make you think all sorts of things. Make you think that you've flown to Mars or been regressed or any of these things, or can do that during your daytime consciousness too. Rick and Morty is a funny show that contains a lot of profound truth, but also a lot of disturbing things. So I provisionally recommend it to you. There's one episode of it where the mad scientist character is taken by aliens into a virtual reality. That's where he's like being interrogated in there, but he knows he's in a virtual reality. So it doesn't work on him, but that's what we're talking about. The ability to scoop somebody else's consciousness or awareness or mind, put them into a virtual reality fantasy land, hypnotize them or influence them to think that they're actually in a place that they're not, and influence their behavior. And it's very easy for some malevolent beings to do this using a form of technology. Yes. Eleanor says, part of the challenge here for me is to stabilize into my natural mind, discern it and feel it as me enough that I can expel intrusive thoughts versus a fake self-identity chastising another aspect of itself. Yes, yes, yes. Pretty messy sometimes, though. What sees the mess itself is not messy. I really like that distinction. Versus a fake self-identity chastising another aspect of itself. So that would be like hand puppet 1 saying to hand puppet 2, stop it, you are bad, right? Like that is nonsense, endless sniping, and it doesn't actually cut through the Gordian knot. So what we're trying to do is cut through the Gordian knot. So again, the way I approach my experience is not conversational. When I experience intrusive thoughts, I don't say, you're a naughty intrusive thought, like stop it. It's not like endless hand puppet sniping. It's not like that. I say, hey, that's a thing that's not supposed to be in existence, and I actually unmake. You do an unmaking. Zip, unmake. And I will have to telepathically describe to you exactly what that maneuver is like, because it is too hard in words. But yes, there's an unmaking. It happens. And thank you very much for that description, Eleanor. I think that was an excellent point. Austin says, is an example of a mind virus negative thoughts like I'm ugly and similar things that depressed people experience. Heck yeah, heck yeah. So you don't think that you're ugly, but the mind parasites and hobo ride-alongs that don't actually have bodies think that you're ugly. They freaking hate you. They hate every aspect of you that is healthy and vital. They hate your body. They will look at you and be like, your nose is gross. Your pores of your skin are gross. Your freckles are gross. Your hair is gross. You poop. You are disgusting. You smell. Like they don't have bodies. They look down on you because they don't have bodies. They actually having a body is a huge accomplishment. They wish they had bodies. So what they really are doing is they're hugely envious of you and your bodies. So they're like, oh, I hate your stretch marks. Oh, I hate your flab. Oh, I hate your hairy abdomen. It's like, no, they hate you. Do you get it? They just freaking hate you. In the same way that like if there's a beautiful person and they're happy and they're healthy and they're doing everything in their life and you're like a horrible shriveled wreck, you're like, I hate that person. They're happy, they're healthy, they have everything that I want. Like that's what they're like. They hate you. They hate your divinity. They hate your beautiful life force energy. They hate your joy. They hate when you love other people, like you're hugging your spouse. They hate it if you hug your dog. The best thing you can do to say F you to these, satanic freakers, hug a dog. Hug a dog and say, I love you. You're the best. She might come out from the bed. Yeah, that's the best way to say F you. Go hug a dog or whatever. Wait. Body dysmorphia. I'm just had to drink a bit more. So a lot of the self-starvation diets are about that too. That demon ride-alongs literally look out for people's eyes when they look at their own body and say, look at how fat your stomach is. Look at how fat your ass is. You have to be a vegan now. And that's it. That's how they control human behavior. They say, I hate your body. I hate that you have a body. I hate that you have a body. I hate that your body looks like anything. And you're not good enough and you should starve yourself now. And they'll do that for whatever it is. If it's veganism or if it's low fat or if it's low sugar or whatever, they hate you. They hate that you have a body, and being skinny is never skinny enough for them, and having plastic surgery is never enough for them. You can never distort yourself enough to please these demons. Carla says, I find myself crying very easily all the time by sentimentalities that touch my heart. Is this energy that can be harvested or is it good? It really depends. So when I scroll through Facebook, I'm a sucker for all of these things that are about like animal rescues and the dogs have names, but then they give them a bath and they're good 6 months later. I cry at all of those, but I know that my energy is being harvested. I know that it's more mammalian energy and not necessarily like love tone. So I recognize it's like schmaltzy energy. I know that that's what's happening with me, but I have a soft spot for rescues and dogs and kittens stuck in ditches and all that type of thing. So I watch them on the computer and I know that that is manipulating me. So I would say, but there are other things like when I feel that feeling of love that comes from a real love telepathic connection, and I feel like my eyes tear up a little bit and like my eyesight gets a little bit sharper. None of that feels like schmaltzy energy harvesting. You know what schmaltz is. So first of all, schmaltz is from this Jewish word meaning chicken fat. It's like, extra that you put on toast. And schmaltzy in Hollywood means like the strings, the hug, they're running at each other. Like it's emotionally manipulative. That's what schmaltz, it's like that music is going on. Oh, hi, you got your little one there. Baby lasagna. Baby lasagna's on board. Good. Awesome. Yeah, schmaltzy means emotionally manipulative. Or some songs like the whatever, I'm thinking of that Paul McCartney band Wings. He had a lot of schmaltzy arranging, you know, like orchestral strings, oh this that. Yeah, you can tell when it ain't real. You can tell when it ain't real. You can tell real love, real connection with something that is schmaltzy and emotionally manipulative. Allison says, I made some shungite pads that are filled with shungite powder, and they're amazing for protection at nighttime. Awesome. I will literally put one over my head if I feel I'm being messed with, and it stops right away. I can give a link to the shungite powder. Good, good, good. And if anyone wants to make one, do it. I love DIY approaches like that, and I totally endorse that you're doing that. You know, I do shungite powder in my daily moisturizer, so I have that on my skin, and I think that that helps a lot too. So yes, on the shungite. Justin, hello and welcome. I'm not sure if you're new to the class. Says, hi, Aurora. Super chakra? I met a mouth type person who balances his chakras by combining them into one. Distortion or useful? Thank you. I would say that that can be useful. That would be like looking at, let's get a picture. I have a picture prepared down here. I'm squinting. Let me get a picture. That would be making something like this. Where's well, this. This is a detail from a larger painting, but it would be like making something like this. I would say that it's accurate in a certain way. Like it shows a one convergence point, and there is one convergence point. My words are failing me because all of these drawings are accurate. It is accurate to show all of these singularities overlapping, and it is also accurate to show them all not overlapping. There are two different ways of showing the same thing. So hard for me to say, but yes, I think that it is a valid practice to do that. Miniman says, but our society is based on words, thoughts, and books. It's an intellectual society that humans are experiencing, but that does not arise from humans. I'll go on. Empires are gone like Rome, but the books are still here. But there's also art from Rome too. There's nothing more powerful than ideas, thoughts, and words. Art remains. The pen is more powerful than the sword. Art also is extremely powerful. What should I use to express complex ideas? My mission to wake people up. Art and music is a possibility. My Polaroid art alone is not going to speak and explain that for me. Now what? You might have to branch into a different level of self-expression than the present level of artwork that you're making. But I will tell you that imagery from ancient societies remains and is incredibly powerful. Everything from hieroglyphics of, you know, ancient Maya and ancient Egypt to the Sphinx itself or the pyramid itself, these giant sculptures, and the other sculptural forms, Grecian marbles, the tomb paintings. I mean, I know that there is symbolic language structure in a lot of the hieroglyphics that I'm talking about, that's similar to words, but I really would say that your present emphasis on words and the intellect shows your influence of culture, like your cultural anthropocentrism of the time, much more about age of enlightenment stuff that has said that the intellect and reason, everything, you know, from science in the age of enlightenment, intellect and reason, uber alles, as being prioritized over other thoughts and feelings and expressions, and the diminishment of the value of art and music. But art and music, I think, are incredibly powerful ways and long-lasting ways of sharing ideas across time. So now that we have musical notation, we have music that is notated from whatever, all the way back, whatever, 500 or 600 or 700 years, even 1,000 years, there's music from back then. The music is very powerful, and it does embody a lot of intellectual ideas, the modalities and tonalities beyond mere lyricism. But the way that music is structured and their modalities contains a lot of ideas. So I think it might be time to recalibrate your expectations of how well nonverbal expressions such as art and music can last across the ages and also carry ideas. Jules says, making elite noble shungite water is helping me jump dimensions, so much changing upwards, noticeably swiftly, helping me receive telepathy from source and singularity. That's awesome. So first of all, thank you very much, Jules, for these comments. I'm big on shungite. Noble shungite or elite shungite is a little bit different than this. It's more brittle, so it's difficult to drill or form. It's usually just a raw chunk, but it has a higher concentration of the fullerenes, which are the carbon-60 molecules in it. So this is good, but that's like supercharged, even better. So yeah, if you can wear a piece of noble elite shungite or put that in your water, it's even better. Miniman says the Rick Lantis mix-up. Rick and Morty, very good episode. Thank you for getting the title for me, because I didn't know all the titles. Rick Lantis look into it. Again, provisionally, I recommend it. And there's a lot of potty humor, but just like smoke a joint and watch that show. Sharon Underwood says, for years, I was obsessed with books, mostly spiritual, but felt like a rat on a wheel. When I started listening to your YouTube videos, it oddly stopped. Sure saves a lot of money on books. Oh, that is actually really good. I'm happy to hear that. So, you know, for me, because of some of the neurological disruption, it is just way more challenging and laborious for me to try to translate everything into typing on a keyboard. Like, sometimes I freeze. Like, I try to write, and it's just it has to go through a lot of rewiring to be able to get to my hands. So sometimes if I want to express myself verbally in written words, sometimes I have to do a video and then kind of transcribe it. It is much, much easier for me to just go directly from my brain to my mouth. And at this point, like a lot of what I'm doing in these classes, there's what my words are overtly saying, but then also I'm sending out energy packages to anybody who is receptive to them. All of course, respectful and consensual, but there's stuff behind the words, and that's a big part of it. So it's not just my words and my mind, but there's abstract energy in the words too. Austin says, are more passive things like listening to music, watching TV shows, or playing video games considered meditative techniques since they seem to quiet the analytical mind? Top call on that, because watching TV definitely puts you into an alpha state. This is the receptive brainwave that says, like, I'm just sitting here letting something flow over me, but that's more of a hypnotic programming state than a meditative state. And video games similarly can put you into a hypnotic state through repetitive muscle movements and, you know, focusing, and it can cut down on the verbal chatter. But again, I consider it more of a hypnotic receptive state than a meditative state. Like, I understand why those technological accoutrements can be addicting, because it kind of gets you out of your mind, but I don't necessarily think it gets you out of your mind in a healthy and productive way, not in the same way that like physical exercise or making artwork or making music kind of gets you out of your mind. Really good question though. Elena, hello, thank you for being here, says, I find that words can be used to point to things that are really useful. I learned to meditate through experience and also from people giving me ideas and help through words. Without that, I'm not sure I would have understood what directions to go and play. Maybe I'm unable to hear telepathy. Words are useful. Yeah, words can be understood as a useful tool, but we have to just have the big red button to just say, turn it off. Turn it off for a little while. I like to listen to music, then I like to turn it off and have silence. So yeah, I would say words can be a valid tool, but the challenge is that the words always talking prevent us from being able to connect to our true mind. And Angel says, you would recommend against using braces to straighten teeth. How bad is the damage done? Are fillings hazardous as well? Yes, yes, yes. Like if I were a parent in charge of child's, you know, health and well-being, you know, even if the doctor said your child needs orthodonture, I would be really, really skeptical, because a lot of the time it is done before the full skeletal. They do it with, they say your kid's teeth are crowded because the jaw hasn't fully grown yet. They say your kid's going to have a distorted face unless we do this now. It's like, no, you can do it in adulthood. Like I think in a lot of ways, it's necessary to let the body go into its natural form of how it's supposed to be and then assess whether it's really necessary. So yeah, in the United States, they're orthodonture crazy. Like they do orthodonture or whatever when you're, you know, in second grade. Like they start at a very, very young age and they do all of these really extreme things. And I don't think that's necessarily healthy on the teeth. So yeah, and also just on beyond an energetic consciousness level, it shortens the roots and it can make teeth be destabilized from that. So it ain't good to get your teeth orthodontured. Definitely no baby root canals. Oh my God, please put xylitol on your children's teeth and don't let them have baby root canals. That's horrible. And fillings are hazardous, definitely, but you got to do something if you have tooth decay. So the plastic fillings are the best. The amalgam fillings are horrible. Root canals are horrible. Getting a cap is like not that great, but not that bad. Getting implants, I think, is pretty bad, but not as bad. I think if you get a tight diamond instead of a titanium, like just don't get a lot of metal stuck in your head. Ines says, we feel it when you connect your words. Oh, thank you. Oh, that is private. Sorry. Thank you, Ines. I am so happy to hear that. Thank you very much, Ines, for what you wrote. Oh, good. And Gala sent a link. Okay. Link to Rick and Morty Atlantis episode. I'm a half an hour over on my level 1 stuff. Let me wrap up for this and go into level 2. Thank you so much to everybody who's on board.